Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I am your host, as always, Chad Porto, and joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, how are you?
I'm here.
It is the last day of February. It is the end of Black History Month. It is the end of my worst work month because I have to get X amount of columns out in a certain amount of time, and frankly, I don't like months that end in twos. Give me a 3 or don't bother existing. I'm weird like that. So, it's Road to WrestleMania season, and we're already off to a auspicious start, if you will. The card is coming together. We don't have the full card as of yet because it's still only like the start of March. But what we have isn't great. We can expect the Usos versus Sammy and Kevin. We can expect Baszler and Ronda versus Lita and Becky because, we were right. They won the belts on Monday as expected. We don't know what else is going on. Probably Walter versus Sheamus. Maybe Walter versus Drew. I'm sorry, Gunther. Then, of course, we have Roman versus Cody in the main event, and that's going to suck so hard. Especially because Sami Zayn is over like Rover. We got Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley in a rematch from WrestleMania from days gone by, and no thank you. I'm good. I don't need to see it. Then we got Bianca versus Asuka, and apparently some of the folks at, what is it, Wrestle Talk maybe? Parts Unknown. They started, or maybe it was Cultaholic, said that she was starting to develop a John Cena-esque run, in alluding to the idea that there are people who are upset with how long she's held the belt and they're ready to see something new. I didn't know that was a thing, but I don't watch the product, so I don't know.
I don't know who's. I don't know who's talking like that because she's been the best thing for a while now. The people that the only smidget on her reign has been the people she's had to repeatedly face. Looking at names like Carmella and a few others. But she's been phenomenal ever since the word. Like they couldn't ask for a better person to have, better in the ring. She's great on TV, great on like their TV, and now she's hitting this zone where she's wearing stuff that's just like, okay, yeah, I gotta remind myself she's married, like every week. So I don't know who's saying that, but they I don't know who else on that roster. Carmella, Natalia, Tamina, Dana Brooke. You want Chelsea Green with the belt?
They really don't. They really don't have a good roster for women. Honestly.
Like I dig her, but she had her time. Liv, you want freaking Sonya Deville to get the belt?
I think there are people who would probably vouch for Liv. Like they're trying to make her into this Jeff Hardy wannabe. Like they're trying. I ain't buying it though. I get it. It's a gimmick, and listen, I'm all about bringing back actual wrestling gimmicks where it's not just extensions of themselves because that's dumb. I hate that. Oh, it's just Stone Cold with the volume turned to 11. No, I'm good. Like I would actually like to see some actual gimmicks, please.
Yeah, it's like, and I like Liv a lot because I feel like she's done a lot. Like of all, like I said, of her group in the Riot Squad, she's gone the farthest, and she was the least believed in to do anything. And she's found a way to connect with the audience, and she's doing this thing now. That's in a way still keeping on TV and in matches and doing more than most other people are. But yeah, Bianca, to me, Bianca's just in a different tier. Like, so I don't know who's saying that, but I mean, it's Bianca and Charlotte, and we all know one way or another the narrative's always gonna be around Charlotte. So if they're not gonna join the titles, which they probably shouldn't, I don't know who you put over Bianca. And they got this new form of Oscar. I'm like, Oscar used to be one of the most feared things in the company, and y'all got her going long with Carmella. Like, come on, man.
Well,
no shot at Carmella, but it's a shot at Carmella.
You got to give Corey Graves' wife some time because that's what Corey Graves probably wants. We're going to talk about nepotism in wrestling here in a little bit. But we're not done with the card. No. We got Brock Lesnar versus Omos. The no was about having to admit that this match is actually happening. Omos is probably the worst worker since Khali. It's not even close.
Jesus.
Like, James Ellsworth is a better worker than he is. And that dude doesn't have a chin. So I don't know what they think is going. I don't know who booked this match. I don't know whose idea this was. But honestly, they should be fired. This is a stupid ass match. This card looks awful right now.
But you know what that match? You know what that match is for? It's for the it's stunt spots.
Yeah, we're gonna get some dumb Brock picks up big guy. Big guy does drop kick off the top of the corner turnbuckle to the floor. Brock will throw one guy into the audience. The other guy will throw Brock into the audience. It'll just be a whole big dumb mess. But also, it's dumb. I don't want to see it. And more importantly, I don't want to see 2 nights of it. Like, no. Like, let's be done with this 2-night nonsense. Wrestle Kingdom ended it, and they have better cards.
No, you stole something that was dying to death. That's hilarious.
Right? Like, no more. Marcus, with the card roughly kind of sussed out at the moment, at least, across one night. Does any of this feel like something you want to see? Like, is this card doing anything for you? Because it's not doing shit for me.
I want to see the 2 women's matches, but that's because I want to see whether this version of Rhea, particularly, I think a better version and a more. I feel like she's the one that's capitalized the most off the success of, or the one that's had the most success in the Judgment Day faction. So seeing this version of her versus Charlotte, I think will be interesting. I just think Bianca and Asuka can shut it down, but the Roman thing is interesting. Like I said, Cody said he go pop up on SmackDown. That whole thing, and we talked about it last time, it's a secondhand feud because Roman, he don't really have no issue with Cody. Like, Cody's only issue with Roman is that he's holding the thing that he needs to complete the story or whatever he's talking about. And, like, the beef there is the history between Cody, Paul, and his father. So it's no real tension there. Like, obviously the Sammy thing has more tension. I'm guessing if they do a face-off, there's gonna be some words exchanged, but it's not comparable to the Sammy thing. But we said this last time too. The minute Cody won, Sammy lost because Cody's match has the narrative behind it. Mostly because Mania is the only place they'll let Roman drop that, and it gets more days on the record. So
the problem that I have is one, Cody's obnoxious and he comes off like a tool. So like instantly I don't like him. And I used to. I do, but I saw too much of him unfiltered and maybe Triple H had a point. The other problem is this company is so rigid in what it tries to do that they don't actually have the ability to adapt on the fly. What you should have done was have, whether it's at Elimination Chamber, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, you should have had Sammy beat Roman and go on this, nebulous run where he's the conquering hero. And first it's Roman. Then you convince Brock to come back in April or May and have Brock lose to Sammy by hook or by crook. Then you do the Roman rematch. And then you go into the SummerSlam with the SummerSlam. God damn it, Jeremy Piven, you terrible whore of a man. You go into SummerSlam with Cody now in the driver's seat. You want to get the ball on Cody so badly? Great, do it. Cody's a douchebag. Why are you pushing him like a conquering babyface? Let him be the douchebag that he is. He solved racism. He can only do so much as a good guy at this point. Everything else is downhill. So you have him turn heel in the match against Sami Zayn at SummerSlam to win the belt. Now you have your new heel, and he's more Ric Flair than he is Dusty Rhodes. Maybe you can even do a whole storyline where he admits that Ric Flair actually knocked up his mom, not his daddy, and his real name is Cody Flair. Like, that'd be adorable. I would love that. That'd be hilarious. I mean, the motherfucker dyed his hair Ric Flair blonde for a reason. So, like, you know, you can pull it off. Plus, guaranteed that dude gets divorced from Brandy in the next 10 years. Like, imagine being that insufferable on TV where you actually declare that racism is over because of your wrestling. And imagine what Brandy has to put up with every day. And it's probably worse during February. Walking around in African sari, just with his yellow, green, reds. Oh, that poor woman has to deal with so much, I'm sure. Margus. Cody Rhodes. Thoughts?
That's interesting, man, because he has this unique mix of like insincere genuineness. Well, like you said, that like you can tell he would like, and sometimes it's hard to know because he gets so emotional so fast when he brings up certain things, specifically his father. But again, to your point, he has this smirk, so it's kind of hard to tell whether he's, being legit and feeling it in the moment or he's auditioning for a soap opera.
Well, he did want to act more. So, like,
So which I get. I mean, he wasn't the worst thing that's ever come through Arrow.
not the
Um,
best.
but which is funny because his whole superpower was that he didn't have to sell. It's hilarious. But yeah, it's interesting. And like you said, I was a fan of him too. But he's kind of come back into WWE as essentially the poster boy. He's kind of come back to the company, been handed the golden key, the golden ticket, whatever. And I don't know. It's just it's somebody new that they can bring in that's believable to be wrong because he's the only person that the man hasn't beat. That I guess at this stage in the game is actually believable. So I don't know, man. I'm just kind of in the middle. It's cool to see him back in the company where it all started. Because I remember when I was legitimately finding enjoyment of seeing like hardcore Holly pimp slap him every week. So to see where he's at now is quite the journey through all his phases and gimmicks and whatnot. It's quite interesting. I'm not quite as sour as you all on it, but I do get the critiques. It's certainly coming off of the AEW thing because that was just a myriad of just issues. So
Adrenaline in my soul. I can't believe you guys spot all that.
I dyed my hair back black.
I got a stupid neck tattoo. Oh, my father said when I was younger that skull's fucking stupid. It's fucking stupid. That's really when it happened. Like when I saw that motherfucker get his dumbass little ugly skull logo as his fucking neck tattoo, I was like, "Wow,
Yeah,
you are early
that's
onset CTE."
I'm glad because this is definitely mature chat because that's definitely when it started. Like when he got that neck tattoo, it was like when the like when the walking in on your spouse cheating and the person that you caught him with is severely below you. It's like it's not that you cheating, it's that you cheated with that.
Right. That neck tattoos, face tattoos, and those arcing chest tattoos, like with like cursive writing. Like, what do you? I hate when people fall into fads. Like, come on, guys, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Speaking of not doing that to yourself, people need to wake up and listen to Mark Henry. On the 27th day of Black History Month, Mark Henry gave to me one CM Punk quote. I don't know what the other 26 or 28 months or 28 days will have to offer for Mark Henry, but I'm excited. Mark Henry went off on an interview recently and talked about, that's the right mouse, talked about CM Punk going on Busted Open, the show he helped host with Bully Ray. and Mark LaGreca, I think his name is, talked about Punk's absence, and Henry had this to say. Punk has posted things. If you didn't love it and you didn't really want to do it, you wouldn't post. You wouldn't have any interactions on social media at all. You just let it go. He has not been released from his contract. That being said, one of the things I've seen is the FTR has supported him. He didn't say the FTR. I did. My bad. He said, I've seen as FTR supported Punk the whole time, which I find to be refreshing in pro wrestling. We need to support each other if there's a problem. How cool would it be to see if FTR go out to CM Punk and say, we'll stand beside you against the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. Win, lose, or draw, we support you. The loser has to be the one to apologize. Somebody is going to have to apologize, even if they don't want to. It also brings a little bit of togetherness. You have to use it now. You can't have Punk come back and not address the issue, not say anything. We're just going to move on and put Punk with the Powerhouse Hobbs. You can't do that. And you have to bring him back and make it mean something. He goes on to say that, I guess the direct quote isn't used, but he basically says that CM Punk is not an issue in the locker room. And I buy that. Like, a lot of guys have come forward and spoken very kindly of CM Punk. The only people who haven't are the elite. Marcus, do you back Mark Henry on this one, or do you think the big man is wrong?
Or there's still being some lingering feelings about Punk. Probably, I mean, because it was a lot. They put a lot on him. They put a lot on his shoulders. He did a lot of good business. We talked about it. Probably one of the biggest returns we've ever seen. Some would argue the biggest. I think it was needed for both the company and for Punk personally. But it's if he don't agree with the system, he don't agree with a lot of the mindsets that's on the roster, and the people that he gets along with probably aren't a lot of people he's going to be specifically working with. It's kind of hard to have now. It might turn out to be a cancer unintentionally, just because of that. Because if people don't really want to work with you, it's going to show in the work. I think it got to a point, and eventually stuff just bled over in the worst way. So I think Mark isn't somebody to be real political on certain things. Because certain stuff, I think, in terms of, because he's old school, he's a specific way. He's not somebody, particularly when it comes to controversy. Because we're not gonna hear no stories about Mark Henry getting punked or anything like that. You probably see those situations in black and white. So I think there's truth to it, and then I think some people may be suppressing it because some people might just want it to be behind them, and some other people might be like, look, either you go bring him back or you're not, but like, that's a spot that can be taken up by somebody, money that could be going to somebody else or what have you, because like you said, he hasn't been released yet, right?
Correct.
So he's still getting paid. And I feel like a few of those people probably feel that way, but again, we've heard people come to his defense, so I think, it is split, but I think the people that's come to his defense, like I said, I don't think we would have seen a lot of them working directly with him outside of FTR. Like you said, but that could be something they do if they want to play into it, of having would it be the Bucks and Kenny with him and FTR. That could be a banger. But I don't know if the juice will be worth the squeeze because the PR of it and everything. I just don't know what the way Punk is, even if it comes back on a alleged mended fence, how long that's gonna last. Because when people are at the point where they're throwing chairs at you, that's kind of.
And we also kind of need to realize that, Kenny Omega hurt Punk's dog in the scuffle. At least it was alleged to be Kenny. Could have been the Bucks. Could have been whoever.
Yeah, that's personal.
Yeah, there's a lot that needs to be resolved. But at the end of the day, if you can get past your ego, I feel like you can, make it work. Because, no one died. You can't, you can't act like this is the worst thing to ever happen in the history of ever. It's not even the worst thing to happen in pro wrestling. It's probably not even the worst thing that's happened in AEW. Because at the end of the day, what happened? A bunch of guys who are known to be a bit uppity pissed off CM Punk. CM Punk spoke his mind, which is what he does. Like how anyone is shocked by that. I'm befuddled. A little scuffle broke out where someone got bit, and that's the most notable thing about it. CM Punk is too money not to use, number one. This whole thing is too hot not to turn into an angle and make money, number two. And number three, a lot of this has to do with the bitterness and jealousy that CM Punk, unlike the other three men, be it the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, actually drew. Like, the ratings were up with him. They're down without him. They will go up once he comes back. That is just the simple fact of the matter. So, bring him back, get over your egos, and do business. This ain't the era of Hulk Hogan. No thank you, sir, brother. Speaking of brother, I don't have anything. Speaking of nepotism, there we go. That's the best I can do. I am a very tired boy. Britt Baker finally admits that she got a bit too much, a bit too soon. By that, I think she means that her relationship with Adam Cole and Adam Cole's friendship with the people who started the company directly influenced how much she was given. We all knew that already. And I'm going to, a hot take time. She's still not that good. Sorry, Marcus, I misspoke. She's still not good.
But wait, Chad, she's had most of AEW's TV time and she's been champion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But wait, Chad, she's had most of AEW's TV time and she's been champion. And she's pretty. And she's with the hottest guy in the industry. With the best bod. I'm just saying.
Those are all words that you spoke. I wouldn't say any of them are facts. If Cole was not part of the friendship group that was running AEW, Britt Baker would never have been the person that they put the belt on or the promotion around. She's not that charismatic. She's charismatic enough that she could be on TV. She's not athletic at all. She is one of the biggest botchers I've seen in some times in women's wrestling. She's not that interesting in the ring. Her moveset is very, very generic. And a lot of her ideas are basically just things that we've seen better wrestlers do at different points in their career. So it's like, all right, I get it. But I feel like she's the friend of a friend that everybody likes. Everybody likes Adam Cole, so they like her. Right? But if it wasn't for Adam Cole, people wouldn't even know who she is. I don't get why after 5 years, 4 years, we're still doing this narrative where Britt Baker is some big women's draw. I would like to believe that that's true, but it's not. And I don't know why we're sacrificing people like Tony Storm on the altar of Britt Baker. I really don't. Aren't they doing some kind of feud with Britt Baker and Saraya?
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yada yada. So yada.
Chicago.
Chicago, you're out of there.
Oh, yeah, it's Saray's turned heel. He's with Tony, and they've been trying to get Karu Shida to do it, but she's like, "What? I'm not cheating with you, idiots." And then obviously Britt Baker is with not Tony Storm, but
Jamie Hayter.
Hayter, and I'm sitting there like, I think this whole thing is holding both Hayter and people like Storm back. If anything, like Hayter, Storm, and somebody like Sheeta should be emerging as the fiery ones in this, and maybe having a triple threat for the strap. But Baker has been there. Don't need to see that again. And Saraya, I don't even know how much she can really do. Obviously, she's wrestling, but I think, she's not the same performer she was, and after what she's been through, she's not gonna be. So,
and to be fair to her, she really wasn't that good. It's not like you're going from Shibata 2016 to now. It's not like you're going from Edge 02 to now. You know what I mean? like her fall or her drop off isn't nearly as bad because she was never a super athlete. She was never a very physical worker. She was very technical. And if you're a technical worker, you can last. And I feel like, the concerns about her neck and head and spine, I'm sure, are legitimate and scary. So, like, they don't want her to go too hard. But on the flip side, she can also still go at least as well, as anyone in this company besides maybe Sheeta. Not Sheeta. Who am I thinking? Who was the first AEW Women's Champion? What was her name? The Japanese wrestler.
Io,
Shirai. No, not Io.
not Shirai. It's what's the little? She's little. It's
Maki
not
Ita.
Hio. It's something. Oh, I don't.
I'm just gonna look it up.
Yeah, it's something. Oh, little Spitfire.
Rio.
Rio. There it is. Rio. Yeah.
No, I was thinking of Sheeta, by the way. Rio is cute. She's adorable. But no, she's the workhorse. She's got that thick style that just fucking ruminates.
She's got to me, her, and I think she might be injured now, but Statlander's gotten better.
Statlander's pretty good.
Yeah,
if you can nail down like a solid, concise gimmick with her, because like I know like her space woman thing, her alien thing, is her big. But if you can like focus that, I think you can even have because like they don't really have a character in that division that I think works. So like if they could find that, like I think they would be off and popping.
Which is weird because if you ask a lot of people, the first name they bring up, if you said they don't have a character, like what they got, Britt.
Being a bitch isn't a gimmick, especially when you're supposed to be.
And then they probably say Cargill, but at this point, it's funny because the way people, and you brought this up earlier, the way people or whoever Wrestle Talk say feel about Bianca is the way I feel about Jade at this point.
No, you're not alone on that.
I'm ready for something else. Like I get it, freak specimen, whatever, but these 50 wins. Okay, you won't remember 3 of them.
I don't remember any of them.
So it's like it's time to move on to something else or get us some worthy competition that can actually push her, make her flex, like talking about. And I know she's somebody that's constantly having to get better on the fly because she got put on TV and she's been having to learn on her feet in front of TV every week. But I'm just bored with the concept of it because you just said like being a bitch is not a character, and she's a bitch bully. That's not really
just so dull.
Like I said, I mean, carved out of stone, gorgeous, all the stuff, got all the but then you put it into action and it's not really hitting. I'm looking at people like you said, Statlander. Io Sheeta. I'm looking at Tony Storm. I'm looking at Athena. People in that ilk. I mean, hell, even the girl with Vicky Wyman, Nyla Rose. Even she, has her moments.
I would be fine with Abaddon getting some run with the belt.
That's another one that they probably should use more.
She's one of the few characters that they actually have in the division, and they're not even using her. And she's got a great gimmick. I hate doing she's just like, because they did that with Abyss. Well, he's just a McFoley clone. No, he was his own thing.
By the way, shout out to Justice. That was interesting watching.
Right?
That was
felt Joseph Park.
I'm like Abyss before his body fell into the abyss with all the matches. But yeah, that's an interesting. All this time they still have issues with the women.
Well, isn't Kenny Omega the booker? Like maybe it's time that we get rid of Kenny Omega in all facets. He can go hang out with his friends down in Florida.
And that was interesting with him because in the early goings there was a lot of foreign talent that they were using, and then that kind of watered down to Riho, and then Sheeta came in, and we haven't seen a lot of that since.
Yeah, like they had Maki Ita, they had Yuka Sakazaki. You know, and she's one of those, like, she can get over the crowd because she's got that, like, Disney princess thing going on. And, like, she's very likable. And then, like, you could easily do just, like, this great feud with Sakazaki and Maki Ito because they're polar opposites of one another. But, like, I don't know. Does Kenny not have the ability to get them anymore? Is AEW not using? Because, like, they're both with, not Shimmer.
Stardom.
Yeah, Stardom. They're both with Stardom now. I think, yeah, I don't think either one went to Ice Ribbon. So, like, you could easily get both talents, bring them in, do a feud, and you wouldn't even need to do, like, promos. Let the matches do this talking. You know, like, nobody had to have a promo explain what's going on when Great Muta took on Jushin Thunder Liger, and then Liger ripped off his mask and became a demon to fight Muta. It was great. Like, come on. Like, we can do better. Maybe Kenny can't, but I can. Speaking of doing better, fucking Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt's been back for nearly 6 months, at least 5. Came back in October, early October, I think like the 10th or 11th. And for 5 months, we've seen nothing. Nothing has happened. 5 months, nothing. 5 months of what happened? Nothing happened. What's that? Nothing.
This is the remix to the "Hey, it's nothing. He says he knows you."
Wait, what was that for?
The Rock Hurricane backstage segment.
Hurricane when he was at his peak. Rock when he was at his peak, too. So, I knew this was going to happen because Bray Wyatt is not a creative person. Everybody's like, oh, he's so creative. He's so smart. I'm like, he doesn't know how to end a story. It's been fucking, what, a decade? 9 years? And we still don't know anything. Who's Sister Abigail?
Just like he's a bunch of half-done Scooby-Doo villains that never get to finish the episode.
Not even that. Like, imagine if Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Machine, the Scooby Gang, showed up. Like, Zoink Scoob! It's a haunted factory, and the ghost is Mr. Jingle Bingle. And that's the end of the episode. Like, nothing happened. This is what Bray Wyatt is. He's a goddamn 30-second Scooby-Doo clip. I would have gotten away with it if there was actually a plot.
Oh, man. Yeah, he's essentially came back. He cut a real promo in his real state. For DBZ fans out there, his base form, and then he's been coming out in various stages of his base form. And then this Uncle Howdy thing has come back up, and he's essentially going back to the Firehouse Funhouse crap and that, and varying different stuff of that. But yeah, like you said, it's interesting to people who allow themselves to keep getting roped back in. But for you, it's like, this is only intriguing now because it's something different, but it's not going nowhere. And it's starting to feel like the stuff now, like, again, even with the Eli LA Knight situation, where it's like that he picked a fight and won it. And it didn't even feel like that match he beat him in the ring, but that was a stunt match. That match was a glorified ad. It wasn't even a match. It was a match for a poisonous Mountain Dew flavor. So I don't know. Again, where it's going. Now he's picking on Bobby, and I feel like it's going to be one of those situations where, okay, they had a match, and Bobby gets him in the hurt lock, and then the lights go down, and they come back on, and now the hurt lock's on Uncle Howdy, who's no selling it. And again, we go to your point, where's this going?
I think the real point I have to ask is, what did anyone expect? Like, this motherfucker has ruined his gimmick how many fucking times, and he still gets opportunities? I know a lot of people are like, well, Goldberg taking the belt off him ruined the Fiend. It took him 7 years to figure out how to get to the Fiend. Like, the Goldberg's not the issue. Bray being a shit worker who can't fucking move and who comes up with stupid fucking gimmicks that don't actually make sense is the issue. Like, just because he's different doesn't make him good. And I have to explain this to people so fucking every time.
Well, there's an excuse for each one. Well, the first time, when he was, leader of the Wise, he ran into Cena. And then with the Fiend, he ran into Goldberg. And now he's just running till he hits a wall, I guess.
And like the thing that really baffles me is this is what he's designed for. He's the villain. Villains lose.
Mm-hmm.
He took on the conquering hero in John Cena, and he lost. He took on the conquering hero in Goldberg, and he lost. And this is what's supposed to happen. So I don't know why people were fucking mad about it. Moreover, I don't know why people are mad about it, considering that it's the WWE. This always happens. It's Saudi Arabia. This always happens. Like, it's like, oh my God, I went to a Klan rally and I was so offended with the overt racism. What did you think was going to happen at a Klan rally? Like, you can't keep watching the same fucking product for 15 fucking years, 20 fucking years, and be surprised that it sucks. Because it sucked for 20 years. Like 2007 was the downfall of this company. And we've been living in this vortex of suck for so long. And so many people refuse to just accept, I like pro wrestling, but I hate this fucking company. So move on from it. It's okay. There's better wrestling out there. You don't need to be part of the popular crowd to like this shit. I promise you, you will see some good shit if you stop watching the nonsense. And maybe if they lose enough fans, if they lose enough viewers, if their fucking house shows take a hit, if their live shows take a hit, if their premium live events take a hit, they'll go, maybe we shouldn't do endless amounts of bullshit all the time. It might actually be a sustainable model if people go, I'm not going to be here for the 19th reincarnation of Bray Wyatt. Because they're not that interesting and they don't lead to anything, ever, historically. So, yeah, I'm done with Bray Wyatt, at least for this week. Speaking of being done with things, Davey Boy Smith is done with the WWE, basically saying that the only reason he would ever go to the company is because of the money. Quote, he couldn't give two shits about returning to the WWE otherwise. Quote, they're probably going to offer the highest guaranteed contracts right now. So if it would just be for the money, I would just say that's all it would be. I couldn't give two shits about it being there otherwise. It'd just be for the money. To be perfectly honest, I don't really watch the product anymore or anything. So if it was for the right money, sure. But otherwise, no, I wouldn't have any interest in that. And that being a return to WWE. Considering how bad they book everyone. In fact, there are reports that Triple H is unhappy with Karrion Kross and Johnny Gargano and his wife and others who have basically done dick all since returning to the company. So it kind of makes sense that this would be a growing sentiment among some talents when they see how others are being booked and how they were themselves booked, that they wouldn't want to go there. I mean, after all, like, let's be honest, we don't know, but we know that Matt Cardona's probably offered a Royal Rumble spot, maybe even a new contract. He's not interested in showing back up. If he was, he'd be back because his value's never been higher, and this company is bleeding talents. Like, look at who they have. Like, they're still pushing Sheamus at 41 years old out there, doing strong style matches with goddamn German God himself, Gunther. Like, Gunther's taking years off of Sheamus's children's lives, and they're not even born yet. That's how hard this motherfucker slaps. So, like, I don't know. If you're watching, the same 13 guys for the last 10 years and they don't make any new real stars, like, yeah, you'd be like, yeah, I don't want to go back there. Gunther's becoming a star. That's one. But then again, Walter was a star everywhere he went anyway. And Cody was, you can't even say he's a new star because he was a star in AEW and Ring of Honor before coming to the WWE. It's like saying, well, AJ Styles was a new star. No, he wasn't. They're getting breaks from 10 years ago, like guys like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. And they're getting, stars from other promotions. Like, that's how they're staying afloat. But then again, that's pretty much the WWE model. Like everyone they've ever had, be it Hogan, Savage, Flair, um, Ricky Steamboat, Kurt Hennig, all these dudes came from a different promotion. They were stars already. Vince McMahon has always been a star fucker. So, like, I don't know. I'm not surprised Davey Boy Smith doesn't want to go back to the company. Marcus, are you surprised Davey Boy Smith doesn't want to go back to the company?
No, because the only time he had a successful run was when he was like legitimately when he first showed up with Tyson Kidd in the spiky crown hair,
with
the little bitty crown.
the little like tiny whips,
Yeah,
wisps.
that thing, that thing.
That was a look.
There was a look. And then he left, and then came back, and it just it. And he tried to come back and never materialized in anything. And you're essentially playing a bunch of waiting games because I'm guessing he got the fact of because he came back when Vince was still there. So I guess he ran into the whole situation of we have nothing for you, everybody's favorite uh, storyline. And I just think he got tired of being dicked around. And when you're somebody that actually wants to get out there and do your thing, I mean, we seen how hard he was going in, the NWA tag tournament, killing it.
Mm-hmm.
You're somebody that wants to get out there and go after it and not just sit up there and have a good lifestyle and collect a check. You almost kind of feel insulted. So I 100% get him. He don't need it. Like he kills it everywhere else he goes. Proves himself everywhere else he goes. Really doesn't have anything to prove in the WWE box. So, but I get it, and I commend him for kind of just letting it go because so many guys try to get back to that company like they have like a chip on their shoulder, unfinished business from getting fired because they feel like you know they got to come back and prove something. I think that's what EC3 really failed at. Um, and they don't because eventually the joke becomes on you. So I commend them for kind of waking up and smelling the coffee.
I don't because he's an idiot. I love Davey Boy Smith Jr. I do, but we see this all the time, especially with like AEW right now. You can't have so many talents and keep promising all the new toys that they're going to get equal playtime. That's not how it works. Davey should have known better the last time he came through. Now, granted, I know like he just wanted the money, and that's why he went. But after a while, like your reputation has to supersede whatever the WB makes of you because one day you're going to be gone from the company. They don't retain everyone. And if your reputation is destroyed by a shit company and you want to do this for a living, then you're going to have a real big cloud hanging over your head for a long time. Like it's taken Cardona a long time to make money because he had to wash that stink off of the way they used him for so many years. So I'm looking forward to what Davey Boy Smith Jr. is doing later on down the road because he's a great talent and he's not even 40 yet.
That's crazy because I feel like we've been seeing him for such a long time.
We have. Like, he debuted in some of the smaller indies in, like, 03, 04, 05 when he wasn't even 18 yet.
Crazy. But, yeah, to your point of the metaphor you talked about, it's like the scene out of the first or the second Toy Story where they had his arm ripped.
Yep, from the first one?
Yeah,
Oh, no, the second one.
no,
Second one, you're right.
second one, yeah. Second one they did the scene was like, your arm's torn. I don't want to play with you anymore, and he drops him. Like that's what the company does a lot of these episodes, specifically under that Vince era.
Mm-hmm.
If you weren't entertaining, or you didn't get, or he didn't get you, or you didn't speak enough of the language, whatever language you spoke right, just the littlest thing, So yeah, like you said, man. Hopefully he kind of gets over that whole narrative and just because there's money to be got in other places. I mean, and I think even somebody like Nick Aldis talked about this. If you do right with your money and negotiate properly, you can end up making more kind of freelancing, if you will, uh, in the long run than just under one sheer contract where you might not be working a lot at all. So um, I guess it just works out differently for different people.
Speaking of working out, let's get to the working out portion of the show. That's a terrible slogan. I'm off tonight. It's making an impact time.
Hey man, 300 articles, nobody's blaming me.
My brain hurts. So I was gonna get screen caps, but I just didn't have the time. So no screen caps for us. Instead, we're gonna have a little read along blog. Now, Marcus, you experienced the NWA-TNA weekly pay-per-views number 1 and 2 for the first time in your life. Computer that's making all that noise.
Let's see. Oh, you down now?
It sounds like it's whirling.
We better now.
Oh, much better now.
Okay.
So, in one word, just one word, find the most obnoxious word you can think of. In one word, how would you describe the first two pay-per-views from TNA?
One word, huh? Polarized?
That's fair. That's fair. So, we're going to go through this one at a time. Jerry Jarrett passed away, I think it was like last week or the week before, so this is pretty auspicious timing. So, basically, NWA TNA launched in 2002 with Jeff Jarrett, Jerry Jarrett, and Bob Ryder as the key figures. They would later bring on Dixie Carter as an investor and then later sell the company to her. Don West, who also passed away recently, Mike Tenay, and Ed Ferrar are your commentators, and there's a little something interesting about this show. Now, the first match was the Flying Elvises versus AJ Styles, Low Key, and who is it, Jerry Lynn? I want to say.
Yeah.
Now, that was supposed to be the first match, but it wasn't supposed to be the first segment. And that's the thing that I think kind of surprises people is like when we talk about the NWA TNA Week 1 pay-per-view, the first segment was supposed to be that 6-man tag. But in the pre-show, a 450-pound large black man by the name of Cheeks, because his ass cheeks were huge, not making that up, hit the ring, hit the corner turnbuckle so hard, he broke the ring. And we're talking like 2 minutes before the show starts. So if you go back and you rewatch the opening segment, which was a celebration of past NWA figures that were still alive, culminating with I think like Dory Funk, I think Jack Briscoe was there, not Gerald, and ultimately Ricky Steamboat. Like they all came out. That was supposed to be later on in the show, but they had to shake things up because of the fact that the ring broke. So that's why you had the opening that we had with Ken Shamrock and Scott Hall and Jeff Jarrett, the three pillars of TNA, one of which would make it until October. So a little bit of history there. The opening segment doesn't do much. You know, it just sets up the fact that, you know, the three guys to worry about are Shamrock, Jarrett, and Scott Hall, and they're going to be the three names in the Battle Royal. And then you had your first opener match, which was the debut of the X Division. Now, before we get there, we also had to get a Goldilocks promo with, pardon the name, Puppet the Psycho Dwarf, who's here and wants blood. Because even though Vince Russo's not here yet, this was still something they thought was a acceptable story idea. Now, I don't know why they did it, but they did it.
The minute I saw this, I'm like, wait a minute, is that Velvet's guy? And then I kept looking, I'm like, oh, that's not her. And then
all white people look the same. I keep telling you. I like it. steer into the racism.
Like, ask my good buddy, old Palo friend, what he thinks the difference between Grayson Waller and
Austin Theory, and it's the part in their hair. He combs it differently whenever he does a different gimmick. That's my philosophy. That's my theory. My Austin theory.
uh that was a joint collaboration.
That's what it was.
Uh, but the minute it's crazy the times we living in. The minute the N word started coming out, I covered my mouth like, oh
Wait, Puppet said the N word?
no, the M word.
Oh, the M word. I was like, man,
You like this got dark. No pun intended.
right?
It's
Like I was like, man, I didn't realize it had gotten that dark. We
now
picked the
something
wrong show
something
for Black
something
History Month.
fast came together and they made themselves a midget. And in that midget, it was me. And I'm the midget you don't want to run it. I'm like, holy shit. The dude was just going off, man. It was hilarious. And then, the other word I could have used that could describe these shows is variety. Um,
It was
cause,
varied.
uh, cause between the women in the cages, him, um, they had this really, they had an, this dude would have been a perfect candidate for the my 600 pound life. He
Mm-hmm.
was black. He had braids.
Yeah,
He
that's
was on
Cheeks.
yeah cheeks. And then you had I swear to God, man, I don't know what all truth have been drinking for years, but he's only slightly aged. It's weird. Um, Same hairstyle, same build. But it's weird. But yeah, they had that on the show. The masked old like Samoan built luchadors that was all masked. Uh, it just had a lot of everything. Kim Shamrock looked weird to me, but yeah, it was
It was the mutton chops.
yeah, that particular backstage segment, it was jarring because I'm like, what does this have to do with the rest of the show? And then, oh, like this is not the WLC that this would evolve into.
So that takes us to the opening match, which was the six-man tag match between the Flying Elvises, Low Key, AJ Styles, and Jay Lynn. Now, one of them was Jorge Estrada. Jorge Estrada would later go on to join, I forget whatever the whatever Raven's TNA flock gimmick was. He would join CM Punk, Raven, and Mickey James, and become the only one of those four that didn't have a huge career. Yeah, that's Jorge Estrada. Then you had Sonny Siaki, who would go on to be one of TNA's better workers and better personalities, and would later go to the WWE as a developmental talent. But his brother would end up having kidney failure, so he would retire and donate one of his kidneys to his brother. Siaki, though, was somebody who would have been a huge star had he continued because he just had all the right tools. And then the other flying Elvis was none other than Jimmy Yang Wang. So this was a trio of sorts. That's the best way to put it. And for a 2002 X Division match, this was during a time when these kind of guys weren't doing the matches like they are now. Like this is a very rudimentary version of like what you get in like AEW every week, but it was pretty good. Styles was a holdover from the WCW. He was a part of the cruiserweight tag team Air Raid with Air Paris. Loki had just got done doing a tour with the World Wrestling All Stars, which I made Marcus watch at least once. And then Jerry Lynn was one of the few guys from ECW that didn't stick around in WWE for that long, and now those three would be the cornerstones of the X Division for at least the rest of the year. What was your thoughts on the match, and how did you feel that it went?
Um, Good. Use your word here. Good progenitor to what will become the X division, what we come to know. But this was very much the proverbial, and I guess this phrase got used a lot in the earlier days when a lot of people spoke about Cage. It was a proverbial get your S in match.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was little selling. A lot of people. If the match was a video game, everybody was using their heavy moves.
Mm-hmm.
and the heavy strikes, and it was cool, and there was a lot of back and forth, hot action in the opener, and this was, they kind of previewed this a little bit, talking about the because this the match that they emphasized about the total non-stop action of it all. So yeah, it worked for me. It was interesting seeing the early forms of AJ, like the first time he hit that style in DDT, and obviously low key is just hitting everything that moves, and then obviously like you said, Jerry Lynn. So it was really cool, and seeing Wang Yang, I'm like, okay, so he was either um what was the gimmick here, Conquistador?
They were Elvis
Yeah,
impersonators.
there it is. I'm like, so he went from being Elvis to an Oriental cowboy.
Yep, pretty much.
That's a hell of a thing, but he's always been fun to watch. And he had like what, a corkscrew moonsault or something.
Mm-hmm.
He did. So yeah, it was a good opener, cracking opener. Like I said, it was a great show of stuff that was because this was before they did the tournament for the X title or whatever. And then I was like I said, this is essentially the progenitor again to what we get now with the X division. So
Yeah, I think the X Division won't be formally crowned until week 3.
yeah,
Then we had the apologies midget match between Hollywood and Tio. This was terrible.
yeah, this was not good.
I don't know why anyone thought that seeing two little people brawl with hardcore items was going to be funny because that's why they booked it. It wasn't. See, Mexico does a lot of little person matches,
Yeah,
but they're not done to mock the talent. They're done because they provide a certain uniqueness and athleticism that is very captivating. There's a genuine sincerity to the appreciation that these minis have. And if you look at MLW, they're doing the same thing with a guy named Microman, who I swear to God may not even be 3 feet tall.
yeah. You saw the same thing. They did the same similar thing in Lucha Underground with I forgot the wrestler's name.
No, I know
Wasn't
exactly who you're talking about because like he paired up with like Sexy Star at one point, I think.
yeah. So they did it, like you said, there's respect there. But when they on shows like this, it's for the laugh. This match isn't about exclusivity. It's not about inclusion. It's not. That's not what it's for.
Was it Masquerita Sagrada?
Yeah, I feel like that. Yeah, yeah. Because I was thinking about the other wrestler that had the curly hair that was a part of the LGBT community, but I can't think of their name. But their names are close. Um,
Pimpinella
there it is.
Escrella?
Yeah, yeah, them exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So like they're held in a lot more reverence in Mexico, but yeah, this was a mockery, and I think Hulk Hogan would try to do his own gimmick league where it's like midget championship wrestling, I think is what it was called.
Are you,
It's not great.
are you serious? He really tried to do that? That's
Yeah, no, he did. Go ahead, Google Hulk Hogan. Let me see if I can find the right Google search. Sorry, it was Hulk Hogan's Micro Championship Wrestling.
yeah. That's why I'm glad, and shout out to the Public Enemies podcast. Tweeted about like it's only right on the last day of Black History Month for us to post this clip, and it was a clip of the RKO across the back of the limo on Hogan.
The RKO? Oh, the RKO. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
RKO.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Although, let's be fair, it's not exactly like Randy Orton, some you know huge proponent of the black community.
yeah, yeah. It ain't as it's a little less of two evils on this one. Definitely get it.
Like if they were to call and be like, Randy, how do you feel about being a sex symbol of the black community? He'd be like, the black community. Oh, the ad HSL shirt will literally never get old. Even my girlfriend thought it was funny. So like. So then we get Miss TNA. It was
Yeah, this
it was was I don't remember as a just a battle royal.
the Miss TNL this because they had a segment about it.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. The battle royal comes in week 2.
Yeah,
So we get
this
the
was
introductions. We get Francine from ECW, who was Lance. No, Shane. What was it? Shane Douglas's valet.
I think so. I just know it looked like when she walked out, like that was the first time she ever had to wear heels. It was awkward. Like, I don't know if
Uh,
she was drunk or it was the heels.
of the ECW chicks, she was always my favorite. Not as a personality, I just thought she was attractive.
Yeah,
Uh,
she's
then we also had a young Mickey James. She was going by Alexis Lurie. Then we also had Elektra and Daphne and a few others. And that's it. That's all I can say about this segment without getting mad. Mark, do
yeah,
you have any thoughts on this debacle of a segment?
yeah. Like I said, I think Miss Francine having a little difficult time walking out on. Like I said, I don't know if it was the heels or she was just in a different zone. But it was interesting seeing a young Alexis Lorraine, like you said, aka Mickey James. Um, this on both these shows alone, just seeing how many people were there from the start. But yeah, this was a nothing segment. I throw that right back to that. There's another backstage segment with like two real country dudes that look like they were like the spawns of Trevor Murdoch or something. But yeah, they had a few of those on this show.
That's because one of them was Trevor Murdoch, Marcus.
All comes together.
Speaking of coming together, we have to talk about the Johnsons. So Mortimer Plumtree is one of the few gimmicks that I actually liked about this. He was a frat's what's the best way to kind of describe him? Consigliere. He was like this very douchey frat dude, and he had two giant wrestlers who would actually go on to the WB, and you would know them as the Gemini. Remember them? Big
Hmm.
white bald dudes with no personality and charisma.
Yeah, they faded away into nothing.
Yup. Before they got Corsaired, no, not Corsaired, Cortezed, they were literally designed to be two walking human condoms. And they were just there for dick jokes because that was what Ed Ferrara and company thought would sell weekly pay-per-views at $9.99 a pop. And embarrassingly enough, they would go on to have a match with the Johnsons taking on Psychosis. Yes, that's Psychosis. And a future James Storm. Jimmy, I don't know if you've heard this before, but I'm sorry about your damn luck. Because this was fucking terrible.
Yeah, this was again, and it's so weird again seeing this as the opening for what would eventually become, the independent TNA, eventually Impact Wrestling. Because I'm like, this is how the Brain Trust started, and I'm like, with the regimes that we've gotten in years to come or years since, I'm looking at like, well, we too hard on some of these regimes. 'Cause this is like we're trying to compete, we're taking stuff from WCW, we're trying to figure this, that, and that, and then we're gonna be different here because we're gonna have little people.
Here's the funniest part about what you just said about WCW. The ring they're using is a WCW ring. So, that's
Yep.
hilarious. Also, James Storm was literally signed as one of TNA's young upstart talents that they saw main event possibilities with. They literally saw him in a match with Chris Harris a few weeks before the event and signed both guys off that one match. So, this is how they do young prospects in O2. So, yeah, it's pretty bad. But it's not. It's not. We're not even done yet. So we get the dups. It's fluffed up, bowed up, and stand up. Yep, all puns. And their cousins, who are both dating fluffed up, and one is Trevor Murdoch, future NWA World Champion. So kind of let that percolate as you will. That's not even the worst part though, because then we get Ron Killings taking on Hermie Sadler and Sterling Marlin of NASCAR fame. Now, Marcus, I don't know if you've ever watched NASCAR.
Barely.
These were. This would be like getting Kristaps Porzingis and Gary Payton Jr. So it was kind of a big deal that they got these guys. Like
Yeah.
Hermie Sadler was not a big name in NASCAR, like he was, but he wasn't. But Sterling Marlin was a very successful driver, at least from what I remember. I'm not a big
Yeah,
NASCAR guy.
Bull Rash on commentary said this was like getting the NWA champion of NASCAR.
For Sterling Marlin, yes, because I think at one time he was the top driver for a little while. Hermie
Yeah.
Sadler, on the other hand, was a very competent driver, but he would make more of a wave with NASCAR as a commentator, and he would also host wrestling events and would become part of TNA's commentary team for a little while in the mid 2000s. So like he definitely had a lot more involved, and I think he actually was longtime friends with Jeff Jarrett, or would become longtime friends with Jeff Jarrett off the appearance. I can't remember which way it went. But basically, Ron Killings came out there, and this was a vaguely racist segment where they're like, "Yeah, this is the South, and we don't like your kind here."
That's basically what that was. It's like
I mean,
it came
they
off.
framed it around it being NASCAR, but it's yeah.
He walked in there like Ron came out there demanding one of them white only pies.
To make matters worse, we get the debut of Brian Lawler, aka Brian Christopher of WB Too Cool, Too Much fame, Jerry's boy, and Killings, who's going by K Crush, and him would start a small little feud that nobody wanted to see.
I just know. I'm like, did they really toss all truth out of K Crush out the ring like Jazz? Like he got tossed out like Jazz.
He, he got tossed out like DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah, man.
Then we get Christian York and Joey Matthews taking on Stan and Bo Dupp with their cousin Fluff Dupp. So that's a thing. They're all cousins dating one another. And
Well, make
I got to say this: Trevor Murdoch doesn't look like Trevor Murdoch here. He looks like a very young but slightly chubby Dustin Rhodes.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he grew. Yeah, he kind of developed a more hickish form. Yeah.
And they took on Christian York and Joey Matthews, who were a tag team at the time on the Indies. Of course, Joey Matthews would go on to be Joey Mercury, and Christian York would go on to take steroids and show up in TNA with dreadlocks. So
Yeah, like he kept a body and gained a bunch of bad habits.
pretty much, the match wasn't good, but it was a match. Finally, we get the second best match of the night outside of the 6-man tag, which was pretty good, which saw Jeff Jarrett, Buff Bagwell, Lash LaRue, Norman Smiley, Apollo, Ron Killings, Slash, Del Rios, Justice, Conan, Bruce, Rick Steiner, Malice, Scott Hall, Vampire Warrior, aka Gangrel, Devin Storm, Steve Crano, Ken Shamrock, and Brian Christopher, aka Brian Lawler, all take on in a gauntlet for the gold match. Now, this match is hilarious for several reasons. One, Bruce came out looking like a young Hulk Hogan with hair. That was unexpected. But the even better part was Del Rios looked like an off-brand Scott Steiner. And they didn't do anything with it with Del Rios and Rick Steiner that I remember. We also got Justice, who was a young Abyss, and Apollo, who was one of the first members of LAX. If I remember correctly, the first two members of LAX was with that Conan recruited was Homicide and Apollo, and then they would change Apollo out with Machete, and then they would change out Machete with Hernandez, if I remember correctly. So, a lot of wrestling history in this one match. Marcus, Ken Shamrock would go over. He'd defeat Malice, who was also known as the Wall in WCW, wins the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Considering Shamrock was a huge star in the UFC and the WWE, this was the right move, at least in my opinion. What did you think of this match, which also included a cameo by Toby Keith, who eliminated Jeff Jarrett because Jeff Jarrett pushed Toby Keith out of the way?
I
And
was just getting
Marcus,
geeked up.
keep in mind, I'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way.
I was just first off just going back and forth looking at just how long Jeff Jarrett's been an antagonist. Um, it's hilarious. And then obviously again, I guess the match with the NASCAR thing, Toby Keith at the time was also a big get. But just the cameos for the Battle Royal, like I said, seeing all those guys in that first form cell, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
had to get all the bodies. But yeah, it was just it was intriguing, and Jarrett looked like he was gonna win until, like you said, he got eliminated, and then like the real one, I popped the real person I popped big for. I'm like, is that an in shape Conan? Holy Jesus!
Yeah, this is
Uh,
one of the last times Conan popped up when he was still able to move because like his hip was deteriorating hard at this point, but he could still do it. He could still go a little bit.
yeah, he had the physique on him and everything. He was full. Oh, that lad, he was full. Um, yeah, so it was cool. And then, like you said, also with we both Kim won, and yeah, it still came out. Jared was like, yeah, but I'm still in the spotlight again because I wasn't supposed to lose. And then of course, just both of these shows in general, seeing all the people that no longer with us, like seeing Hall and a bit of his prime and whatnot. Yeah, just the match just had some really good cameos for me. Maybe pop big, and then like you said, it was the right decision to go with Shamrock because it's not too many people going to get with that high legit credibility. So yeah.
So that's basically it. Jeff Jarrett yelled at people, and Jackie Fargo came out, and Scott Hall was there, and week one was a fucking
Back
mess.
back in those days when they end the show with a brawl or something, and then the announcer guy's like, "We're out of time. We're out of time."
I'm pretty sure that's literally how they ended this show. Now,
Yeah, no, it is.
I'm pretty sure this was live, but week two was filmed right after this, and that was not live. So let's talk week two. NWA TNA weekly pay per view number two. Now we got some things in play here. First up, we get a huge opener with Jeff Jarrett taking on Scott Hall. The two had some words prior to the Battle Royal, and then they had some words after the Battle Royal. Scott Hall was seconded and thirded by Jackie Fargo and Toby Keith. This match should have been a banger. In fact, it was 2/3 of the 2000's Super Bowl main event, or I think it was the main event, which featured Scott Hall, Jeff Jarrett, and Sid Vicious. So we know they worked together, and we know they worked together quite well. They were actually NWO 2000 teammates together. Yet this match sucked so hard, considering who was in it. Margaret, what were your thoughts on the opener for NWA TNA Weekly number two?
It was mid, man. It was mid, and it the ending was worse than the match. Cause like, did they double? This ain't gonna sound like that. They double stroked him,
Yep,
and that didn't look good. So it's like, yeah,
it's
not
not
good.
great. This was definitely not a match that I think people need to watch, considering it featured two pretty big names and could have been the headliner for the show. Then we get Cheeks making his debut officially versus Frank Parker. This match was terrible. The least said about it, the better. I believe Cheeks won, and yeah, not exactly a great way to start things. Mike Tenay then announced that next week we're going to be getting a one-night tournament to crown the TNA. Sorry, it's the NWA World Tag Team Champions, and that Hall and Christopher versus Jarrett and K. Chris match will not be a part of it. We then get a recap of last week, And we move on to Cage Crush versus Brian Christopher with Sterling Marlin and Hermie Sadler. I'm going to give you a heads up. This match sucked.
Spoiler alert.
It's made worse by Ed Ferrara being terrible on commentary. Granted, it's still not as bad as Mark Madden on commentary. So, at least you have that going for you. Mark, any thoughts so far through week 2?
No, we gotta wait till the end to get to something credible.
So then we get TNA, I was about to call him TNA. TNA hyping up the Rainbow Express, who will be here. AJ Styles and Loki, Psychos and Jalen will also be the X Division competitors for the night. I guess I thought that was week 3, but I guess it's week 2. We then get the TNA Lingerie Battle Royale featuring Francine, Tyler, Miss Joni, Shannon, Alexis Lurie, Miss Sasha, Electra, Taylor Vaughn, and Aaron Bray. Marcus, this was terrible, and I'm sorry I made you watch
No, you're not, but it's fine.
it. I love a little chaos, so of course not.
We're two full red-blooded males. Nice to hear about my boy having a girl again. Um,
Appreciate it,
but,
brother.
but I literally got on my phone when it started. I'm like, I'm glad I reached the point where I'm not salivating on stuff like this. But this was women in the ring half naked, and they couldn't even do that right. Like it was just, it's not good. Like I get that this is a new show, a new program, and you're just spoiling ideas across the board, and you're trying to cover all the bases. But less was more here, and we didn't need this. And of course, you want to get women on the show and whatnot, but this was not it. Like I remember, like I don't feel bad for the days we had, like the lingerie stuff in WWE or whatever, because it was the era. That's what it was. There was a lot of enjoyable stuff in that thing, but now maybe it's just a mature guy. Me, I got to have these women wrestling now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can look good, they come out looking good in they formal clothing, and then obviously they got the wrestling last night. But this literally doesn't do anything for me. This could have been well executed. Also, I don't think it would have did anything for me because at this point you're just burning time. After two batches of suck, you just burning time.
I think the part that upsets me the most, if I am upset, because I'm really not, is that this was supposed to be an alternative product to the WWE, and it's just being booked like a product in the WWE.
Exactly.
So that was my biggest issue with this at the time and now. Although seeing Alexis Lurie when she was a little baby, that's funny.
Yeah, that's what specifically considering like we kind of know obviously you got to get work, you got to put food on the table, like that's the look that's associated with something else for us.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically for me because I wasn't familiar with a time in early Impact, but I'm like it's so cool that I guess it's come full circle. Obviously, we would like something else to be going on now, but it's cool that she was literally there at the beginning. And like you said, I thought the same thing. Like you, I'm like they just doing the same thing that the other company is doing, but not even as good. Um, and I think in this match, it felt like they had more women
Mm-hmm.
than the company. So I'm like, the company is doing more with less, and you guys are doing worse with more. That's not good.
Yeah, to get the most out of this, they would have had to have done a lot better booking. Next up, we get an Apollo promo. He cuts words, and then Bobcat and David Young shows up. Bobcat's most famous for being Al Snow's ex-wife. Fun little tidbit there. And David Young is most known for being a guy who lost like 100 odd matches in like 2004 and 2005. He would also later go on to join up with Simon Diamond and Elite Skipper to form the what the hell is their name? The Diamond Enterprise or something like that. So Marcus, this was not a good match. Apollo and David Young had potential as workhorse jobbers, if you will. Like you could put them in there and have a good 7 8 minute match, but they weren't gonna be stars. And we got them over Chris Harrison and James Storm, in a tag match or in a wrestling match or anything. So that's something. The stable, by the way, was called the Diamonds in the Rough. Marcus, thoughts on David Young and Apollo?
I was right there with you. I was trying to figure out why they went over. Um, but I guess in their mind they were gonna be the guys that eventually AMW became.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean it's good. It's good to bet and fail early and do it late. So that because they eventually came around to the people, and we obviously saw where that went. We got a legendary team versus I guess two guys that eventually fizzled out. So
So now we have to talk about probably the worst part of the show. Joel Gertner comes out and he cuts his usual poem that's full of double entendres and whatnot, involving the Rainbow Express, Lenny Lane, and Lodi. Well, actually, no, I think it was Lenny. It was Lenny and Bruce. Is that who it was?
yeah, I think so.
I'm gonna double check real fast because I know Lenny Lane was part of it, and I know Lodi shows up eventually. So I just want to get my ducks in a row.
How many different how many different low level spinoffs of the Express have we seen? Like
More than I care to remember. So it was Bruce and Lenny. They came out originally. Lenny Lane and Lodi did this gimmick in WCW, but as Tanay said on commentary, it was too controversial, so they stopped doing it. They ended up being standards and practices and hung out with Stacy Keebler. The basic gist was that they're gay, and that's okay, but not really, because Joel Gartner's like, I don't care that they're gay, just as long as they don't do it around me. That was basically his mentality. The Rainbow Express were solid workers; they weren't bad, but they were scheduled for the Dups, and if I remember correctly, the Dups didn't want to wrestle because they were alternative lifestyle boys. And at the same time that they're pulling out of the match, James Storm and Chris Harris, who are apparently late to the show, are walking by in their street clothes, and they get put in the match. And now Harris and Storm are taking on the Rainbow Express, and thankfully Harris and Storm won. In a
yeah,
decent, it was fine. I wouldn't say it was good. It was fine. But the Deep South did not appreciate the gay duo of Bruce and Lenny. Bruce, by the way, was Alan Funk, aka I think his name was Kiwi in WCW. If you remember him,
okay,
so that was him. Then the match ends. Thank God. It was what it was. Then we get Ricky Steamboat. He's in the ring. He tries to bring in Ken Shamrock. That doesn't go well. James Mitchell comes out, yada yada yada. Insults start flying, yada yada yada. Malice comes out, yada yada yada. They're building up to the Wall, aka Malice versus Ken Shamrock. And while I appreciate the fact that they're trying to get the Wall over with with James Mitchell, the name Malice and the black trunks and black duster, not even a duster, it's a vest, was not a great look. It was not a great gimmick, and there was a reason why he didn't last that long. Although he does end up passing away, I think in like '03, while in Japan, if I remember correctly. So like, he didn't last that long, in the promotion, and he died shortly thereafter. So it's really kind of a tragedy. So like, it's not great. So Marcus, I have to ask: are you intrigued yet about the first title feud involving Malice, aka Jerry Toot, and Ken Shamrock?
I like the fact that Shamrock the champion, not necessarily into the feud. Um, but damn it, looking forward to seeing how long he holds on to it and what all that looks like. Because obviously we know what Shamrock's all about. So sometimes you can feel like we was talking about this earlier with the women and other companies. Sometimes you can have a great champion, but the challenges don't really match up too well.
They really don't. We then get the main event. It's going to be AJ Styles versus Psychosis, who lost his debut match, by the way, versus Low-Ki and Jerry Lynn. It is a double elimination match, meaning you have to be pinned twice and you're out, or you have to submit twice, what have you. And I will not be mincing my words here. This was a great fucking match, even 20-odd years later.
Yes.
Marcus, this is your first time seeing it. It was not my first time seeing it. What did you think about the match?
It lived up to what we feel like we've talked about this match a lot. Just talking about like X Division history and stuff like that, and then obviously I've seen various clips of it and whatnot. But to see it in full and executed and seeing these guys not even in their prime doing this stuff, particularly the young AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn, just masterful stuff. Like you said, this was hands down the best thing on either show. Um, and again, prelude to what would eventually become the greatness of the X Division. And it really was just like you said, even however many years later, it's still something you can go back and watch and appreciate. So, and that's a credit to all three of those men.
Styles ends up winning the match, becoming the first ever TNA, NWA-TNA X Division champion. And it's a pretty lengthy match. It goes about 26, 27 minutes, give or take. It says here 25, 56. Real good stuff. Then they hype up next week. It's going to be Scott Hall and Brian versus Jeff Jarrett and K-Crush. Shamrock versus Malice for the NWA-TNA World Championship. The NWA-TNA Tag Team Title Tournament starts. So week 3's got a lot going on for it. Overall, the first 2 weeks of NWA-TNA were bad. Marcus, do you concur?
Absolutely, you can't call one match, um, or two if you count that first X Division 6 man. But mainly the one we just talked about. It can't cover two shows worth of garbage. It can't.
It does not. And unfortunately, Marcus, the following weeks may not even have that many good matches. But we will experience that trauma together. Not next week, but the week after that, we're coming back for another two-parter, weeks 3 and 4, because I need to know how far I can take this before I break Marcus. I needs to know.
Go flip through the yellow pages and eventually find Zack's number. Like, you talk to him, okay? You talk to him. You figure out what the freak is this issue, okay? Uh,
My issue is that I haven't made enough people suffer on my time on Earth. And I would
uh,
like to do just that. So, with that being said, let's wrap it up. We have next week's show. I don't know what's going to be yet. We're going to do something. Maybe we'll finally get to a deeper story. We'll have to work on that though beforehand. I finally get to have at least a half a day off. Woot woot. I don't know how I'm going to spend it. Eating probably. And with that, we'll wrap it up. You can check Marcus out on Twitter at Paradox Kid. That's PARADOXKID.
me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TRUEPENNYSHOW on Twitter. Marcus, what are you guys covering last week and coming up?
Yeah, we covered 2 Glee shows, so we got caught up on Glee and checked that out, and then James and another couple panelists had covered Battle in the Valley, so plenty of True Penny content to check out going over there, and just get to listening.
Do your listening obligations. Do it. You can find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, CHUD, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo at CHUDSPHOTOHUT. We're back next week for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast, and with another, 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, we'll be back for another edition of the Making an Impact podcast. Even though we're recording back to back, they are different shows. So be sure to check us out in 2 weeks if you want to find out how we feel about weeks 3 and 4 of NWA-TNA. And realnerdcorp.com, REALNERDCORP.com, and on Twitter at NERDCORP. For Mark Screen, I'm Chad Porto. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus. It's all.
Good night.